conscious of you guys. Thank you, T. I want to be conscious of you all's time too, you and Dr. K.E. And we are live on
Okay.
Facebook. Ladies, welcome to Monday Night Meetup. When Women Heal Facebook group, guys. I was just telling Tanisha and Erica that my body is truly trying to recoup and recalibrate because I was out in the dead um, high beam of the sun today and I felt it, but it definitely was fulfilling to push through. But we hope you all have had a beautiful Monday. Each of us was just sharing how purposeful our Monday has been. And as you guys know, Erica celebrated her birthday last week. Our Monday night meetup last week actually ended up being in regards to Erica and the launch of her new book. So, Erica, I'm actually going to turn it over to you and then you can take it away. I'm going to mute myself out.
Okay, thank you so much and good evening, everyone. I want to first say thank you to all of you who made my birthday so beautiful last week. As you know, last week they did a surprise virtual birthday party for me, which is absolutely beautiful. This whole week has been phenomenal. And also being a part of the engaging conversation over the last couple of days last week, led by Tiara and such a great host. It has just been a power-packed week and so excited to be here with you all this week as I'm rounding out my month of teaching here on When Women Heal. So,
Well, Erica, before you proceed, I didn't see the video before now because I was trying to get us live, but the glasses and earrings, ma'am, the earrings, I'm like, can you just ship those with my bundles, please?
yes, ma'am, I got you.
You know I like something funky and sexy like that.
Yes, ma'am, I sure.
Yes, ma'am, honey. Pass them along. Okay, I'm sorry, guys.
Thank you. We all always have to look fly. So that's when we're going to kind of go into self-compassion tonight. So we kind of skipped around with a couple different things. And anytime you want to have any more engaging conversation or have any questions, just put them in the chat. When we were talking about honoring your emotions and rebuilding relationships, we were talking about self-reflection, self-esteem, self-worth, self-care, self-compassion, and self-awareness. And I think sometimes we'll get challenged when self is a part of certain things. So before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and open up in prayer and then we're going to dive right back in. So Father, we thank you. We give you glory, praise, and honor for this day. And we just bless you, God, for how you're expanding us, growing us, God, and increasing us in every way. We thank you for your loving kindness and your peace. In the name of Jesus, amen. Oftentimes when we think of honoring our relationships and we always have been conditioned to put self at the back burner because when we often think of self, the first thing that comes up is when you think of self, you're automatically being selfish. And that's not necessarily the case. We have to think of ourselves in order to be able to engage the way we need to when it comes to those personal relationships. In order for me to love you the right way, I have to be able to love myself first. And even before that, I have to be able to receive the love of Jesus Christ. And with that love and understanding the pureness of his love, therefore I can love myself better. And in turn, I can love you better. So when we think about self, and we're going to talk a little bit about self-compassion and self-awareness tonight, we have to be able to give ourselves that compassion that we need. Oftentimes we extend grace to other people, we forgive other people, we allow things, we submit to other things, but then we have to know, how do I give my own self-compassion? And that's just extending grace to yourself. It's in that place of that consistent forgiveness of self, that place of It's okay. I didn't have a good day today. Now, if we continue to have bad days back to back, then that's where we need to go into that self-reflection and understanding our self-esteem, what is attached to that. Why do I keep it staying in this state or have this particular emotional trigger that puts me in this emotional loop? That's something completely different. But we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace, or not even a little bit, grace period, because we are human. We react differently to things. Some things unfortunately do catch us off guard, but understanding that place of self-awareness, you understand this is who I am, this is how I show up, and this is why I show up. And that comes to our personality, that comes through experiences, that comes through our environment. Those things we catch, and some things we have been taught. Some things have been caught, and some things have been taught. But with that, how do we show up every day, and why do we show up? And when we understand that, we understand our triggers. And when we understand our triggers, we understand our level of capacity. Case in point, with everything that's going on in the world, I understand my own personal threshold when it comes to listening to so many things in relation to what may be happening out in the world, how people are responding. I know my own personal threshold, and that keeps me from being triggered emotionally. That's part of my self-compassion and self-care. I have to say, okay, I can't handle with so much of it. I can't continue to consume so much of it from the TV, from conversations, from reading it. That's my level of self-compassion, because I'm aware enough of self to know that's my threshold. That's too much for me today. Now, tomorrow may be something different, but today that's too much. And I have to be okay with expressing that I really don't want to have that conversation today, or I really can't, be a part of that conversation now, or can we pin that for a moment and I come back to you? We have to be able to extend those places of compassion to ourselves. Now, I know also for me, I've struggled with the perfectionism piece, wanting everything to be perfect. And with that being said, when mistakes were made, I would be very harsh with myself, and not give myself grace in those places of, that was a mistake, it was an oversight. Instead of staying in that emotional place and beating myself up about it, learn from it, reassess, realign, and try it again. When we don't extend ourselves compassion, it keeps us from getting back up and doing it again. Because we have this negative self-talk that we begin to extend to ourselves, and therefore it opens up the door for other people to do the same thing to us, because we've already done it to ourselves. When we extend that self-compassion and self-love to ourselves, we shut the door to that place of negativity, because we've extended ourselves grace to be human, grace to feel, grace to love, and grace to learn. And we learn from those mistakes. And then we can grow from those.
Erica.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you could hear me or not. I know we were kind of recapping tonight, guys, so I'm not interrupting the presentation. I wanted to kind of go a little deeper, Erica, with where you are, specifically as it pertains to Leslie's segment last week. I don't know if everybody got to see it, but originally, with us speaking on race and inequality and injustice, in meditating and praying about, the conversations, I really felt like it was heavy that God was going to really have her shed light on the weight that's carried from being one or very few of African American women in a predominantly white workspace. And so I really thought our conversation was going to stay in that vein. I really wasn't sure. However, her sharing the struggle with perfection, I think she said recovering perfectionist. Did you see her? That's what I was asking, if you got to see her whole segment.
I did not. I do want to go back and watch it because we had a short conversation. Very well, we had a short text between each other because she had made a post about something prior to. That's something that the parts that I saw I could immediately identify with, because I have often been and currently am, one, I work in a white male dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
So one is not a lot of women, period,
Mm.
and not a lot of African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular segment that I work in, they struggle with keeping diverse leaders.
Mm.
And it has been a struggle. I've been at this particular corporation for 10 years now. And just this year, I feel that I have the capacity to truly speak my truth without retaliation.
Wow.
For the first time.
Wow.
And
And that's before all of this became a headline.
That's before all of this. And I believe part of that had to be because my leader is the first female in the history of that particular location. First female. She is, so that part of that makes her diverse. She is not of African American descent though, but understands, because she's worked in this field for such a long time. She understands the impact that it makes on individuals and not being able to use their voice.
Right.
And with that was made very clear walking into the environment, everybody has a seat at the table and all the seats are the same size.
That's good. That's good.
And with that, we had to develop a relationship, because coming into it, being perfectly honest, the first thing I received was, why are you so angry?
Right. I remember us having that talk.
Yeah, we had that conversation. Why are you so angry? And I was like, well, no, I'm not angry, because I didn't necessarily joke, laugh, because there was no space for me. There was no space for who I was. It was all about them, their culture, who they are. There was no inclusivity. Okay, when we talk about diversity and inclusivity, there was no inclusivity. So you really didn't have, even though you may have been asked to come to the table, you sat at the table and you were on mute. So with that, you feel as though you still don't have a place. You feel as though you're still not being seen.
Right.
And you know that you have to overdo in order to even be even. When we talk about equality, you have to overextend just to be at a place to be considered to be equal.
Yeah.
And being in another role, when I was consistently at the table, when I first had the opportunity to sit at the table, so to speak, my eyes, I was shocked. I knew it, but to sit there and hear the conversations blew my mind at the thought processes and how the unconscious biases was so prevalent.
Lord, I experienced that, I think, for the first time, like back to back. It was happening to me last week during one of the segments of the talk. And I had to really respect the differences. It was just like it was almost like the computer, my brain trying to process something different. You know, it was just, it was like not judgment. It was just different. Like, wow, this is real. This is really the opposite of my reality. So without these conversations, how can we create change if I don't hear this, but if you don't also hear me?
It's so weaved, it's so interweaved into everyday things. And when you understand microaggression and how easily it comes across. It's so unnerving. So let me get back to the former point. I was met with, why are you so angry? And I said, no, I'm not angry, because when I would come to my meeting, I was invited into the meeting to do a report. You come in, you give your information, and they wait for you. Nobody speaks, and that's your cue. It's time for you to get up and leave. You exit the room, then they go back and start conversating. And through the walls, you can hear all the laughter, all the conversation, but you come in, deliver what you need, and walk out. You had no room at the table. So the question was, well, you seem so uptight. But I'm saying to myself, these are the same people who are stabbing me in my back every day. So I let that go. We met the second time. Mm-hmm. Why are you so angry? I said, I'm not angry, I'm aware. I said, these are the same people who have tried to sabotage me for the last 2 years. I know who's in the room. I know what's happening. You see it. I'm just aware. I'm watchful. I didn't have a question after that. To this point now, most recently, events happening without, making it too long. I had to make a conscious decision. I have to show all the way up as my total self, not leaving any parts of myself behind.
Yes.
You spend so much energy trying to fit yourself into what you consider to be this corporate mold. Mm-hmm. They have, because they think that if I act this way, talk this way, speak this way, then that's what's going to get me promoted. That's what's going to get me to the next place. But the thing about it is, because the inequality and the unconscious biases are so deep rooted, mm-hmm. Goalpost is always moving, and you feel like you're never going to reach it. You would literally drive yourself crazy. I remember trying to attain this promotion. I was sick for 6 months. I was going to the doctor every month. I would catch a cold, headaches, migraines, backache. My body was literally shutting down because I had stressed myself out trying to become something that I was never supposed to be. To try to fit into what was considered to be their approved mold to be a part of the team.
Well, Erica, can I jump in?
Please do.
Can you just try to think back to when you chose you, and you chose to show all the way up? It's almost like you were willing for it to go left if it was going to go left, but you weren't going to keep making yourself sick and the assimilation. So when you showed all the way up, what responses were you getting, and what's your advice for somebody else that's in that space?
I decided to show all the way up the last time I went to the doctor, and they said they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And I was like, I'm literally dying. For what? And I went into prayer, and the Lord said, you have forgotten that I am the source. This job is not your source. I'm the source. This job is your resource. This is a means to an end to what's next.
Can you repeat that? God is the source. The job is the resource.
It's the resource.
But Erica, do you know that applies to everything we worry about?
Everything. I forgot. I literally lost my mind for a moment and forgot. And the Lord had to remind me. He said, I'm the source. I'm the one that gave you the job. I'm the one that brought it to you, blessed you with it. I'm the source. The job is the resource. You won't leave until it's time for you to go. You're on assignment here. I had to step all the way back and say, first repent and surrender. And at that point, I said, well, Lord, what do you want me to do? He said, be who I called you to be. And that includes me glorifying him on the job and not being afraid to do that, because that's a part of who I am. It's a very major part of who I am. And at that point, it was like, until it's time for me to go, Lord, I'm on your time. I'm not on their time. I'm on your time. I'm on assignment. And I had to remember that that's what it was. That gave me such a freedom that whether I get promoted or not, it's okay. Whether you keep me here another 5, 10 years, fine, it's okay, because I'm on your time. And when I did that, I had gone out for surgery. And for those who know my testimony, that was the year that I was diagnosed with cancer. And when I got back to work, I really didn't even have to interview. It was so quick and fast. I came back to work in December, and by January, I was in my new role. Just that quick. I really didn't even have to interview. It was like, we got it. Just do this, and then you're going to be promoted.
But it was really that spiritual piece.
But it was a spiritual piece. Because he needed to deal with what was in me. And I needed to make sure that I was doing what he asked for me to do. When I got that part corrected, everything else accelerated. And as a matter of fact, I was just having this conversation with someone today. When you line yourself up with God, he redeems your time. You think that you should have done something 5, 10, 15 years ago, or you were behind. No, you were out of alignment. When you get an alignment, he accelerates, because God is time. He's not bound by time. We all know this from AJ. He's not bound by time. He's the creator of time. He can accelerate it at any moment. You're never behind, because he's the redeemer of time. So I was right where I needed to be at that moment, which opened me up to having a seat at the table. And in having that seat at the table gave me an understanding of how deep-rooted the biases and just for what it is, many of the parts of racism is at so many different levels, even in corporate America. I literally sat at the table, one diverse and one non-diverse candidate. The non-diverse candidate did not have a degree, had an associate's degree with no experience. They were willing to offer her $75,000 a year. The diverse candidate had the experience plus a master's and 2 years experience. So they had a degree, a master's degree, plus 2 years in experience. And they were not willing to pay her the same amount of money.
Stop. Are you serious?
I was blown away. She wanted relocation and that salary. Oh no, we're not going to pay her no relocation. But here it is, you have someone that doesn't have the necessary qualifications, but she's non-diverse. And you're willing to pay her the same amount of money as someone who goes above and beyond with the experience and the credentials. I went through so many emotions at that moment. I couldn't even explain. At one point, I even tapped out because I was so angry at what I was listening to. And I was so baffled by the fact that you're actually having this conversation in this room. And this was the human resources manager who is supposed to keep all those things balanced.
So what was the reason they gave? Because you know they had to give some kind of
There was no reason.
justification.
There was no reason. It was because she didn't want to. Needless to say, that person is no longer with the company, but that particular individual had so many blaring tactics that were so unethical. I was blown away about the fact that she even was employed by the company, because it was 1,000% against everything the company stood for or stands for. Like I said, needless to say, she no longer works for the company. But that was my first experience with sitting there listening to that conversation. And they tried to justify it in every way. In every way.
How do we help the woman that is, you, by the grace of God, you had that wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
We want, as women, heal to try to help them prevent some of these potholes and pitfalls. What's your advice for someone right now on their healing and self-awareness journey? Because one thing about both of us, we know our capacity at this point. We have a good idea, let's say that. You know, we never know what's up ahead, but we have a pretty good idea of our capacity in terms of, like, you know, how much we can take in, when we need to pull back a little bit, give ourselves time to process. You know, what about the woman that's really not quite there yet, Erica, and trying to navigate this space right now? What are some things she can start to do?
Well, one of the first things is you've got to be completely self-aware. You have to know your triggers, and don't take ownership of what does not belong to you. One of the things that you're going to always run into, one is an African-American woman, the first thing they're going to say is that you're angry. And you cannot fall into that trap. When you have that degree of awareness and you know your triggers, that keeps you out of that web of being that militant, angry Black woman.
Well, that's what I was going to say, E, because some people are angry.
Some people may be. But
so we want to be, when you say self-aware, see, I just want to make sure we are objective in terms of some women who maybe haven't done the inner work, and maybe, like I used to be, had suppressed stuff. So my triggers, like you said, I had to become self-aware to know what my triggers were. And I did have some anger from the past. So when someone treated me wrong in my certain settings, all that was coming up. So we just want to honor that. If you are angry, that's okay too. What Erica's saying, become aware of who you are and what you need, because you don't want to let someone else label you something that is not true, right, Erica?
Right. So let's dissect it a little bit. Even if you are someone that has been angry and suppressed your emotion, I was one of those people. You have to have a safe place for yourself. Because you can't blow up at the job, and you don't want to be the one that gets caught out there in your anger.
Right.
You don't want to do that.
Right.
You have to have this is where mentorship is so important. And sometimes mentorship is also having a safe space that cannot come here to just vent. Because
that's good. That's good language.
To have that safe space just to vent.
Now, Erica, that is good. Can someone type that in the chat box? Number one, create a safe space and find that person that you can vent to, guys. This is real, because Erica, you know my story. So I'm not going to go into that tonight, but just know that for me, that was counseling. For me, that was
out when I was outside of the workspace, but in it, that was a Leslie Briscoe, that was other mentors, you know, in that corporate environment, and friends who had navigated the space a lot longer than I had. And then it also, like you're going to get into, I'm sure, with the self-awareness, it start being other things where it wasn't about another human being, you know, the journaling. And that's where the whole AJ 365 is so powerful for anybody that's not in that group. Because Erica, I'm going to turn it over to you, but I want to make sure someone is type a safe space and someone that you can vent to, guys. That's so critical. And please share this out and invite or tag someone that comes to your heart, because this is real. Erica, I'm going to turn it back over to you because I see that a couple of people have typed that in for us.
Okay.
And if they don't have your book, they can master their emotions and master their life and do the inner work, because I had to.
Yes. And it's powerful to do it because, see, it's so many different layers to this, and I know we can't really dissect it all, but we will, because we need to. We need to understand, one, the trick of the enemy in the spiritual sense, but in the part that we can control, we've got to know our own triggers. And when we understand those triggers, we can be discerning enough to know when that trigger is on its onset, and how do I gracefully remove myself so that I'm not triggered. Two, you have to have that safe space, that place where you can have a no judgment zone, where you can vent and get clear before you re-engage.
Wow. Repeat, Erica.
You have to have the safe space where you can get clear. You have to have a no judgment zone so you can vent, get clear so you can re-engage properly.
What does this look like, Erica, at home?
Well, see, this is the thing. When we learn how to do this, we won't bring this stuff home, because that's what some of the problems and the tension is. You've had so much of the attacks and the microaggression and the suppression at work, you blow up at the house. You're angry at the kids, the spouses fight because you have all this extra tension that you're bringing home with you.
See, that's what I really want you to go watch Leslie's episode, because she starts sharing how the perfectionism, how the pressures of work, the mask, we called it the mask for the 12-hour mask at work, and then hit the parking lot and go home. How does it really come off? And then what did this look like in the marriage and as a mom? And she was so transparent about it, you know. And I just really appreciate her, because she became the voice for so many people. Like, thank God, you know, that I've navigated different spaces, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And I'm like, man, I'm divorced. I don't want to see other people go down that path if they can prevent it, from getting emotional intelligence, healing, self-awareness, compassion, and showing up fully. And Leslie broke it down so powerfully that she feels that she has to bring her A game, because she is a Black woman in leadership and the expectation, and she's representing for so many other women that's how she was explaining how she felt. And when we start talking about this at home, how it impacts, does that really drop off when you leave the parking lot?
When you don't have safe spaces in other places, it doesn't. You end up bringing it, because you're in this emotional place and you bring it home with you, and until you truly release it, it's going to show up, because it has to. It's like that valve off the pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm.
Steaming, and it's ready to go, and it is the pressure has to come out one way or another. It's going to show up in your responses, in your tone, in your disposition or your physical body, it's going to show up one way or another. It has to come out. And when you have that place where you can vent, even if it's a closet, the bathroom stall, you might not have anybody to talk to, but you got to find a safe space to go to let it out. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to the bathroom and cried.
Lord,
Let me
yes.
release it. Let me get myself back together, get clear, calm down, and go back. But I have had to go. Sometimes you can go to the broom closet, shut my office door to get it out.
But Erica, that's what I mean by the personal spaces. These things still happen. Let's say you have a couple or spouses that some pain or whatever has come up in the marriage. You know, I think what you're talking about applies because they still have to know how to get, if you gotta pull back a little bit in with God or whatever and process what you need before you re-engage, because that pressure cooker, don't you feel like it's that same scenario?
Oh, it is. Well, you know, I don't know if you remember this. You remember when we used to with the corner sister, when we used to pray every morning, and one of the mottos that I had for married couples: before you argue, take off all your clothes.
I don't remember. I don't remember
If
that.
we gonna go toe to toe, take off everything.
Stop.
For married couples only. It's hard to argue when you're naked.
Wow.
Some stuff is petty. Some things are petty. Some things are legitimate. You have to have some serious conversation. But when you become truly naked before each other, not anything back, you engage differently. You can reason together in a completely, because you're totally vulnerable.
Wow.
You're
Powerful.
totally vulnerable.
That's powerful, Erica.
So you can't blow the belt because you don't have no belt on.
Right.
No.
Joanna says she does remember it.
She does. She remember that. Yeah.
She does. And Dion is saying professional women wearing crowns bring their authority and delegations to their families unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that changes though when you become conscious of it? Like, let's say yourself, do you still do this when you come home, or what's the difference now?
Well, what the difference now is when I leave the location and the gate go down, everything stays behind that gate.
So you feel like nothing unconsciously carries over in the relationship?
It can, but that's where you have to, in that place of awareness, once you become conscious, you also have to be vulnerable enough to share. If this shows up, hold me accountable to it.
Oh, that's good. So you say that of the family, to the family.
You say that of the family, to the family, because that's some things you have to keep top of mind. If you understand that this is how this may show up, or if you see this happen, because if you're consistently working on being a better version of yourself, those people who you love or who love you, and you're giving them that permission to be accountable to, you're going to tell them, if this shows up, your feedback partners, those people who are going to keep you on the straight, if this shows up, pull my coattail. Because this is a blind spot for me. And I know sometimes this happens. If you see this, you let me know.
Yeah.
And that helps you to stay in that place of self-accountability and accountability, so that you don't operate and that be your, because sometimes that could be your default setting, and it helps you to work out of that, because we can always improve. There's some things that are just part of our personality that will not change, but those things that we know we need to work on are those things that we can say, when you see this, let me know. Because I'm one of those people, I get in my head. Yeah. I'm a naturally introverted person. I'm a thinker. and people who know me, who I know that I can trust, that I can say, you're going to be my feedback partner in this. When I'm not present in the moment, tap me on my shoulder. When I've gone off and left the room and I'm sitting in the room and I'm no longer present, tap me on my shoulder to make sure that I'm present. I know that that's me. And because I'm aware, I can say, all right, we're about to go in this meeting. If it's still as though I'm about to go off to the left, make sure you tap me on my shoulder, because I have to consciously know that that's something that I have to work on, because that's a part of my nature and who I am as an individual.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good, E. And Erica, I know you had to work today and you got to work tomorrow. So I just want to give you a heads up that it's 9:12 and it's good conversation. It's good conversation. And it's women are chiming in. I don't know if you have a second device or if you can see it, but T, can you share some of it with Erica really quickly so she can see what's going on?
Yes, ma'am. Joanna is saying she remembers the whole fight naked, and let's see. And she's talking, and Diana Rucker, I'm thinking that she is talking about the fight naked as well. People are just really pleased with the conversation today. But somehow we missed, I'm not sure why, but Marshila's question did not show up. She had a question about, let's see, when roles are reversed and people bring home issues to the work environment, how does that show up differently? So it bursts, instead of bringing work home, you're bringing home issues to the work environment when it comes to this whole conversation. How does that, can you talk about the difference with that?
When you start taking work issues, when you start taking home issues to work, there again, that's having that safe space again. You have to have safe spaces everywhere you go, at home, at work, and even in ministry. You have to have all those safe spaces, because at some point you could possibly be triggered somewhere. And when it comes to work, is there someone there that you can trust, that you can have a conversation with, so that you can get yourself to a place where you can be at peace and you can be effective at work? Because sometimes when home, if you don't have an opportunity to take a personal leave from work to get what needs to be worked out at home so it doesn't affect your job, then that's where you have to, that's where again, the mentoring is so important, to have someone that can help you get your head back in the game for work, and to know where you need to table some things for home. And this is where I will encourage anyone when it comes to many of your corporate companies, they offer counseling. Take advantage of it. I know I did. Because you've got to have somebody to talk to, because you can't put your job at risk because you do have things that are going on at home. That's one of the things that human resources is there for. And unfortunately, in some places, you may be dealing with some other stuff because the people in human resources are up to par, unfortunately, in some places.
Lord, because you know that's true, Erica. It can be at every turn, at every single turn. And
unfortunately, in some companies, some people in human resources should not be in human resources.
Exactly.
To the ethics and the code of human resources. I'm sorry to say it, but in some corporations, that's not always true, because you even have biases in human resources, and it shouldn't be, because you have to understand they're human too, and who they are shows up on the job. So it's about having those safe spaces where you can have them. And if you don't have someone there, you need to find an outside mentor, someone who is outside of the building or outside of the company, so that you can have that person that you can talk to and be human with.
And that's, you know, unfortunately, I hate to bring into legal ramifications, but the the other benefit of the emotional intelligence and self-awareness is that your reputation will speak for itself.
Oh, it will.
Should you go into a situation that way? And Dr. Maureen, during one of the segments, shared how, yeah, she had to, I think she had two lawsuits or whatnot that she had to push forward. And she had her ducks in a row. She had her paperwork and she had the reputation. And so, you know, when you do come up against these unethical situations in corporate, I've known people personally who've had to also do that. And sometimes people will settle out of court or whatever, or somehow they find ways to, um, some people unfortunately try to push you or find a way for you not to be at that job or whatever, or that position. But there are cases where people, especially right now, um, is, you know, more, I think more open ears of what's really happening, and people are not just being dismissed. I think that I'm not in it right now. I'm not living in it, corporate America right now, but I would imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that people seem that they would be a little bit more careful right now before they just dismiss someone and assume that they won't be held accountable. When I had situations, a white male leader snatched my packet from my hand in front of a room full of people and threw it. If he did that today, like today, right now, you better believe there would be different results. And I would feel more empowered to enforce those
Mhm.
consequences, because at that time I didn't feel supported and that I had options, and I did feel that my whole job would be in jeopardy. And you start to get tired of denying yourself and what you deserve and pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. And so what you're teaching is so important, Erica, that, you know, honor those truths. But this is how you honor those truths. This is the process. You communicate, you find the safe space, and you can put yourself in a position to not, like Dion was saying, having the mask and then all these unsubconscious things, and you got the pressure cooker example and all these things that we've had to for the longest try to figure out how to live with. um I believe, Erica, and I don't know, I'm not living in it right now, but I just from the outside looking in, it feels like that people would be less blatant. I guess I would say it that way, because I dealt with some blatant disregard, blatant racism, the blatant mute button, just sit here, look but don't speak. I just don't. Is it still blatant in some spaces, Erica?
Pretty sure it is, because you still have some of the same leaders in some of the same spaces. So until you, when let me share a story with you. When the first gentleman was murdered when he was jogging, was it Aubrey?
Ahmaud,
um they wanted to have a conversation, because, you know, of course it's on the news, and, you know, when are you going to say something, you know, because a lot of people waited, when are you going to talk about it? It's everywhere, but we're not talking about it.
right.
The question had come up, you know, but can we have this conversation? Are we ready to have this conversation? We really need to be genuine. And I sat there and I waited for everybody to say what they were going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, before you can have this type of conversation, I said, you need to decide where you stand on the issue. Because you can't have a genuine conversation with someone and you're not genuine in who you are and where you are with it.
Right.
Because they will know that you're not being genuine because they've already had interactions with you or a lack of interaction with you. And you want to have a conversation about race and you don't even interact with the people who you want to have the conversation with. I said, until you are really sure where you are in your heart with this, you're not even ready to have the conversation.
Right. Right.
So I would say you want to take a minute and search yourself and see where you stand before you engage somebody else, because there are going to be some questions that's going to be asked and it's going to reveal where you are.
Well, you know what, Erica, and I probably need to talk to you offline about that whenever we connect. Because when you go through and watch the 3 days, you know, I think it's pretty apparent when people are clear on who they are and where they stand and don't have to rehearse for a conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
But if somebody says they know who they are and where they stand and think they know what the question is going to be because they've heard everyone else's questions, and then they're asked something they weren't ready for, then it's like you feel someone's putting you on the spot when really you signed up to be asked whatever. So it's like you weren't ready. And I think that's something that I learned. Everybody did an amazing job at being honest, but I think that it's important what you're sharing is that to know if you're really ready to engage in a conversation, because you never know what questions could be asked, and honoring where you are. And maybe you don't want to just put yourself out there for any line of questioning. You could say,
Mhm.
hey, I'm just not ready right now, you
Mhm.
know? And that's okay. That is okay. I don't know if you heard Monique's session, but Monique said as an African American woman and some of her white friends and colleagues reaching out, I don't have to be ready because you are finally ready to have this conversation. That's her response.
Right.
I don't have to be ready because you're ready. I'm grieving. I'm finally having room to process the emotions I've had to suppress. Give
Mhm.
me space, give me time. And I thought she did a fabulous job as a Black woman, giving other women the language to ask for that space to process.
Mhm. And I can appreciate the person who says, educate me. I don't understand.
Right. See, that's where Leslie, that's what so I like what Monique said. I'm not in a space to educate you right now because I'm still trying to figure out my emotions. Then you have a Leslie that says, I don't want to push away the person that wants to understand. So now how do I honor my self-care and boundaries and not push this person away?
Well, one of the first things I do when I have had some to ask me, are you ready for the answer?
Mm.
Because this is going to be a very deep conversation.
What if you have had a long week and you're exhausted and it's just not the time for you to go into it because you know it's not a 2 sentence response? What are you going to
Well,
say to them?
that's when I would say, this is going to take a minute. Do you have time today? Or can we pick it back up next week? Because you have to honor yourself in the process as well. You have to be able to honor yourself because say it's a pretty long, lengthy conversation. This isn't something that I could just drop an answer and without you going to have some more questions, and I may even have some questions for you.
Exactly. That's good.
Because I had a conversation with someone and one of the responses, and I think this was that I just sit in my own little bubble. I wasn't aware. And I would say, well, do you live on Mars, honey? Like,
Right.
how could you not know? And I think there are some people who don't want to know because in knowing there's a sense of responsibility. You have to choose. When
Ooh.
when you are exposed to it, you have to make a choice.
Well, I've had so many people reach out to me after that thing last week. I'm taking one conversation at a time.
It's
I can only have one at a time. But Erica, I want to share with you something that came back from a white male that watched, and I asked one of the ladies if she was deflecting, because I'm asking you a race question and you bringing up something else.
Mhm,
So do you feel this could make another person feel you're deflecting?
mhm.
He raised the point because he seemed very genuinely wanting to understand and connect. He said from that perspective, it could feel to the person. He didn't say this part, okay? He didn't say this part. I'm saying this part, that the person that we may think is in the bubble, right? Like in my head, I'm like, where are you living? Like, but that's my reality, right? I'm like, we definitely, I guess my response is, we definitely are on two sides of the street, opposite sides of the street. That's my way of saying that, which means your side of the street is your reality, my side of the street is my reality, okay?
Mhm.
But he said that, you know, he just gave me something to think about, and like, is it fair to say that person is trying to deflect if they truly are on another side of the street? They're just sharing their reality. It doesn't mean it's a is it a, I guess the question was, is it truly a deflection? So now he has me thinking, which I appreciate. Okay, is there the person who, and I know we going into, Eric, we can pick this up because I do want to respect your rest. Let me just say this. When you get time to watch that whole 3 days, and I know that's a big ask with you having to work all week, it's no rush. It's going to happen when it's meant to. But I would suggest, especially in your lane of emotional intelligence, because we featured your book, right?
No, I did not know that.
Oh yeah, that was the one only resource that I recommended to everybody. This was for us to have these kind of global conversations. If we really want to heal, is we need to master our emotions. And they can go to Amazon and look up the Master Your Emotions, Master Your Life by Erica Bishop that's launching today. And I put that out there because I felt that no matter where people were in the world, they could go to Amazon. They could begin to get tools that are helping me. And it's not about race, right? So now, as we're having these conversations with our family, we're not even judging ourselves and our reality. Like, it's really honoring the emotions, but also the tools to express them, but not just for ourselves, for the other people in the room, which
Mhm,
is why it came to my spirit as it was divine, because it was the day, it was your birthday. It
mhm.
was that, and it had come to me, I think that morning. I said, oh, this is the resource for the group, because I didn't want to throw too much out and have people in all these different directions. But when Nathan came back after he watched my feedback, I could see the person who is truly have lived life a certain way. I can't know what I don't know. Even when someone says it, it's foreign to me. And I'm sharing with you my truth. I
Mhm.
don't believe I have white privilege because my life is hard. I'm getting up, doing this, that, and the third, and it's hard. So this doesn't feel like a privilege to me. So when I share what's hard in my life and why I don't think I'm privileged, does that mean I'm deflecting? I thought that was a fair question, because
It
when you think about the person who knows they're deflecting, there's a difference.
it is a fair question, because there very well may be some, and I believe that there are. But please keep in mind, there's in that awareness, you've got social awareness, and then you have social awareness. And in that social awareness, there's in all of emotional intelligence, there's a thing called discernment.
Right.
Spirit will tell you when someone is deflecting.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I want you to just, yeah.
You'll know when someone is deflecting. But for the one who doesn't know and is genuine, most cases will also be the person to say, well, help me to understand.
Right.
Now, for the one that's deflecting, will be, well, you know what? I really don't know anything about that. Well, that really doesn't bother me.
And then they get ghosts.
Then they get ghosts because they understand that if I get too much knowledge, then I'm going to have to make a choice, or it's going to show where I am on either side of this coin.
Oh my God.
Because, you know, that for some people think the less I know, the better it is. Because if I don't know anything, then I can't respond to it. I don't have to react to it. I don't have to give my opinion to it. But we're at a place now, and this is me personally, we're at a place now where the veil has been lifted off of everybody's heart.
Yeah. Most people's.
Most people's. You're
Mhm.
now seeing how people really feel.
Right.
And displayed, this is what's really in my heart. Because situations and circumstances are coming up where you have to, in a moment, who you are is going to show up.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
for some people who even in me, I was met by a coworker. Did you hear? What are you talking about? So and so made this comment. Then this is in the thick of everything that's going on. And I'm saying to myself, surely you got to be kidding. That person didn't say that. Yes, they did.
It's shocking. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, and I have to go back and say, don't give her the side eye. Until you know the real truth, you just have to operate in the way that you should, because if that is her truth, then that's who she is. Now you know how to deal with it accordingly. But that's her truth. That's who she is. And again, some people grew up in environments and they say, this is not what I want to be a part of me.
Right. Because I had one of the panelists' dads reach out to me and wants to have a conversation with me because he said that this has touched his heart, and he has apparently I guess been unconsciously participating or whatever, and whatever the case may be, the conviction in the heart is to want to do something different. And I can appreciate that. Was I expecting this from generations before me to be reaching out? No, I wasn't. Apparently God had a different plan, you know what I mean? And it's like when you hear somebody say, I want to do different, and they're privately reaching out to you. This is not a public waving of the flag. This is really from my perspective, heart change is necessary to affect lasting positive societal change. What you and your friends are doing is moving in the direction of heart change. That is why I have so appreciated these discussions. And, that's just the end of it. And it's like, wow, for Christ to love me, and I can't love you the way I love myself. I should love you the way Christ loved me. That's taking the conviction to another level.
It does.
And he was saying, that's my desire and goal. And some people come back and say, now all of a sudden, like with all that has been happening. But my response to that is, okay, but thank God it's happening. So let's meet at the table. That's why this emotional intelligence is needed. if we can't honor, like you said, who we are and our truths and our emotions, we definitely won't be equipped for what might get thrown out on that table.
Let
And
me, Bob, real quick. I'm just looking at one from Jamaica. She's saying that she knows 3 sets of best friends broken up from years of knowing each other from childhood. One African American and one Caucasian with no repair. I'm trying to get the rest of it. And I had that as well. Someone who it was revealed where they were, and she had to make a phone call. She said, please understand, I love you. She said, but I want to let you know that I am taking your number out of my phone, and this will be the last time we're going to have a conversation. And the friend was like, well, why? She said, because what you have said and displayed is completely opposite of what I'm teaching my child.
ooh,
And she said, it hurt me and I cried. But that is not what I want to teach my child. And this is someone I care about. We've been friends, but their actions and their words have shown me who they are. And it doesn't line
wait,
up with
she
my
said
conviction.
it's separate of what? I'm confused. What you're teaching is separate, different.
So her friend was making posts on Facebook and making some comments, right?
Okay.
In relation to race and all this other stuff. This was her friend. She was making some comments that she didn't agree with. So she called her and they had a conversation. And she told her, she said, we can no longer be friends.
Yeah.
Because what you have said and what you're doing does not line up with my personal convictions of how I'm raising my child and what I want him to know and understand. Because I'm sharing that based upon the comment that Miss Jamaica just put in the thread.
Right.
She also said that she has some other people whose relationships have shifted. This is a time where we cannot be silent. When we're asked to share, we if you feel as though you can have that conversation, have the conversation. Because some people do want to know and be educated. Some people aren't going to change, but that still doesn't mean that you should not use your voice. If you use your voice, use your voice.
Exactly.
You have the right to sit in it until you're ready to use your voice.
Yeah, don't rush it.
But don't rush it. It's at your level of comfort and when you're ready to do it. But also don't let fear keep you from using your voice. And the place of default of continuing to suppress your voice, because your words matter and what you have to say matters. Because that very thing that you say may be the very thing to shift a group of people, somebody's heart, give somebody a different perspective, because God chose you to say it.
Lord. Well, Erica, I agree. And I feel that God prepares us for our assignments. And it comes a time when He will call us forward for that assignment, whether we believe we're ready or not. I know this to be true. It's happened to me several times. And what you are encouraging people, do not deny that, but out of fear. Don't judge yourself so much and criticize yourself so much that you don't flow. But don't force yourself into a space if you don't feel that that's what God is calling you to do or to speak up at that time. You might need a little more time to process. And that's one thing that Monique and the panel was really helping get through to me. It just reiterated we all have a different role. You and I talked about it, but not only a different role, we have different timing in which we process what we're reading and what we're hearing and what we're dealing with each day. You don't owe anybody an immediate response. We can we can respectfully ask, you know what, let me circle back around to you. Let's touch base next week. Um, and let's set up some time to chat. Well, you're giving yourself and God that room to move and prepare your heart and mind, their heart and mind. And by next week, you'll know if you're ready or not. If you're not ready, you say it again and you honor the process. But to just not say it is not good either. I had to really sit on it because I got an influx of these inboxes after these. I mean, I really couldn't believe it. And thank God, Erica, I had already went through seasons where I had to filter my communication, my stream of communications. Remember, I told you that's why I don't like everybody having my cell phone number and all this. I had to redirect some things from my cell phone back to Messenger, and I'm still doing that because it's easier for me to manage. It doesn't take me into a space where I feel like, man, this is piling up and I can't manage it. If it's in Messenger, I can scroll when my capacity, like the computer's processing, and come back and leave a quick voice memo and send messages. But it's not like your whole phone is flooded. You know, like a realtor, for instance, their cell phone is public. So had they been on a panel and now your cell phone going off all night,
Yeah.
that doesn't work for me the way my capacity. Like, I don't have that capacity that realtor may have. You see what I'm saying? Because when you talk about trusting yourself again, there was a season in my life where I felt I didn't do a good job, and now I'm frustrated at the kids. I'm that pressure cooker, and now I'm trying to respond to all these texts. So I had to find a way to say, what does work? What is the boundary? And that's okay. And so I want to thank you tonight, Eve, for touching on so many different, we had no clue. But I want to respect your time. And if you could drop the link to your bundle in the comments, guys, you know what? Order this for someone else. I'm being led to suggest not just for yourself, because most people have one ordered for themselves, but I did. I ordered one for someone, what we did as a group. But, think of someone else who may need emotional intelligence that you see. You see your friends going through this. You see your family going through this. You see your coworkers going through this. Master your emotions, master your life. Erica, did you have any closing remarks before I know you need rest, so closing remarks for tonight?
I just want a couple things. One of the things you just said about honoring your time, and honoring your time also allows you to see the genuineness of the person that's asking you a question. Because I don't want anyone to be fooled by someone who feels as though they have to say something in the moment and just check the box. Because someone is genuine is going to respect your time.
That's good.
They're going to respect your time, and they're going to honor the time that you need. Because we're in a time in a space where this is not going to be something that we're trying to rush through to try to say, okay, we covered that and it's just an old topic for next week, or we can move on to something else. This is one of those moments. And for some, it may look like that, but this is not one of those moments, because we have taken a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
for everything in so many different ways. Corporations are shifting to make room for a space that should have already been. So there are so many different dynamics that are happening, and we are in a space of, and we do have a degree of momentum that we can't let it go to the wayside, because it's moving us in a completely different direction for so many things, for so many generations. And just like you shared, when you have someone's parent that calls you and they're now saying, I had it wrong, or I need to do something different.
Yeah, 70 and 80-year-olds.
Yeah, that doesn't stop with that person. That goes to everybody else in the family and somebody else, maybe a generation before, because there has to be dialogue and conversation, because that person, not only do I need to be a better version, everything I'm attached to has to be a better version. Anytime there is a shift, everything else has to move around you. Either it will stand or it will crumble and fall, but something's going to move. That's automatic. So
Wow.
the era shifts, everything else shifts around you. When I shift, everything else shifts around me. People, places, and things, anything I'm attached to, it's going to feel the effects of the shift that I have made.
Wow. That's powerful.
And it doesn't end the next day. It may
So
be.
what if you're shifting and you're growing? Let's say the person's shifting, growing by leaps and bounds. Take, for instance, those conversations. We flowed into those organically,
Yes.
but what came from it was unexpected, powerful, a huge shift, a huge everything. Are you saying anything that's attached to any one of us is shifting because of, how would you break that down? Are you saying because our perspective has now
Your
shifted, or
perspective has changed, your your capacity, your insight, you've been stretched. Our spirit has changed. Sometimes it'll take a minute for our mind to catch up with what has happened in our spirit. We don't know how much it has evolved. Sometimes you can see the immediate effects, and sometimes you can see things later on the after effects. So just like when you have an earthquake, you have the immediate impact of an earthquake, and then you have a thing called the aftershock. It's the same thing. When you shift in your life, sometimes there's an immediate effect, but then sometimes it may be 2, 3, 4, 6 months down the road when you're coming to a situation and you're like, oh, wow. You look at this different. You respond differently. You react differently. You speak differently, because different situations are going to bring out different parts of how you've changed. You don't see it all at one time.
I see that. That's good.
So it's a ripple effect. So as time goes on and you've taken this major move, it's going to impact everything around you. So someone who knew you prior to last week, now that you've been impacted by the event, when they meet you 3 or 4, 5 months later, it's not the same Tiara that they saw then. You're a completely different person.
That's good, E.
So how you engage that person now impacts them in a different way. And that's the importance of that self-reflection, when you take a moment and sit back and say, how have I changed? How has this impacted my life? Because that's going to directly impact or indirectly impact anything else that you do from that point forward. Because the thing about it is, you can't go back to what you were. You can't go back to what you were. You've now moved into this whole different realm, and you're getting to know the new you. And there comes a time when you maybe have to reintroduce yourself to people because you're a completely different person. You got to reintroduce yourself sometimes to yourself because you're like, I'm not the same person I was yesterday. I wasn't the same person I was before this experience.
Wow, that is powerful. And I love it, E, because we are all in this paradigm shift that you talk about. And some of us see it, feel it. Some of it is so subtle, you know? And I think the biggest thing you touched on earlier, self-compassion, remaining self-aware. Our triggers may change, needs change, boundaries change, you know, the way we express. But one of the big things is our perspective is changing. That's beautiful. We're growing. And so, as we honor this process, it's not about perfection, it's not about right or wrong, it's about what you said. Everything is connected. It's like a human body, like the two arms might not be directly touching each other, but they're connected to the body and they do connect. I just talked to a young lady who commented on my post and told me she had a massive heart attack last year. I had no clue. She wrote me all that. This is over a year ago. I don't know what happens when you have a massive heart attack and if your life changes forever, or, you know, I don't know. And so immediately I'm in her inbox now, not wanting to assume that everything is okay or what it used to be. What are these implications? Are you okay? And she starts sharing how life changes even from a fear-based thinking because you don't know what's happening with the blood inside your body now when something like that happens so unexpectedly. You're watching everything you do now. You might not even want to overexert yourself. Do you even work out the same? What are you taking to keep your blood thin so you don't have the blood clot? She started breaking down all types of stuff that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
But guess what you said, E? It's all connected because what she explained to me really simply, the heart impacts everything.
It impacts everything.
And when you look at that from a spiritual perspective, what are the odds of that young lady breaking that down right before your session tonight? The heart impacts all the blood flowing through her body. And at any time, you could have a heart attack and your entire system be impacted. That's what happens, what you're saying, Erica. When we go through things in the natural, there's still a supernatural, there's still a spiritual impact. And that is not compartmentalized to just your arm or just this central nervous system or just this one thought in your mind. It's just like the blood flowing through our body. Once it's in your bloodstream, once it's in your stream, it's impacting everything.
Yeah.
So one encounter is in that spiritual stream within you. And who thought they talked to you last week? It's something new in your system. You can detox something out of your system and be completely different. You ever seen the weeds get taken up out the yard and all of a sudden the flowers and grass you thought was dead just starts to bloom? Sometimes it's just the maintenance of a thing. I was thinking about the car maintenance today. Why do we, if I'm pushing myself up this mountain, why would somebody think they're going to come off that heavy week? I just thank God for that. The ability to unapologetically say, I'm not working Friday. I rescheduled whatever was on Friday to this week. And this weekend, I knew quality time with my family, my babies. I want to go sit with my mom on Sunday. On Monday, I need to get up that mountain. I just need to be with God and nature. Well, guess what, Erica? You know what that felt like today? Maintenance, just like you have car maintenance.
Mhm.
I don't feel the need anymore to run that tank down to E, my body, my mind, my heart, my spirit, just because it's Monday.
Mm-mm.
Coming off that, we got to know what we've been through, E.
Mhm. See, it's a cost to it. It's just like when you don't maintain a car and you have a breakdown, it's going to be more, it's going to cost you more than the small increments of time and money to maintain it along the way. But you have to plan that. It has to be a priority. Self-love, self-compassion, all that is a priority. And we have to stop putting ourselves on the back burner because it allows you to be your best self. You have been refueled, you have been recharged. Now you can go and meet the task, complete the task, do the assignment because you're full. You're running on a good engine, and we have to make sure we maintain those things. And we have to sit and see, well, how's my mind today? How is my heart today? How is my spirit today? What does my soul feel like today?
Yeah. That's true, E.
To unplug. And it took me a long time to learn how to unplug because I always thought I was missing something. Child, I wasn't missing nothing but a whole bunch of headaches and worry.
Right.
And when I learned how to unplug and say, well, now I can come back refreshed, then I can come back as my best self. I'm more clear. Because when I'm tired, it takes me twice as long to get something done when I'm tired than when I take the time, pull back, get refreshed, and I'm clear and I'm sharp. I can get it done in half the time.
Say it. But E, I know you're tired. You need that rest. And we can keep going, but we're not. Out of respect for your rest. And you put the bundle link down for anybody that's wanting to gift it to somebody else. Sometimes it's not just us. You know, the price is so great. It makes a great gift. We're right here at summer, and the intentional reading to me is like self-development work, healing work, really taking yourself into a space of honoring emotions. You did an amazing job with including so many specific tools and terms and helping people to honor personality and how to express these things. And so sometimes it's not just, do I need it or I already ordered mine? Who else may need this? Who have I seen struggling with their communication, struggling with the relationship, struggling with boundaries, struggling with expression? Um, so Erica, if someone is ordering for someone else, what does that look like? They ship it, they need to put their shipping address in there?
Yeah, so they're going to order for someone else. They need to put that person's shipping address in there. Of course, if you order from Amazon, you'll order it directly to that person as a gift.
Okay.
But those who order from the link and order from my website, I'm personally signing all of those books and putting a couple little surprise trinkets in there as well to say thank you for your support. And I'll be keeping that price just until the 4th of July for that bundle.
Okay.
That will run until July the 4th.
How much is it on Amazon versus the site?
The books individually, the Vessel of Virtue is $12.99, and the Master Your Emotions is $9.99. But I'm doing both as a bundle for $14.99.
Only on the website, right?
Right, with the link for the bundle and my website for $14. But after
A great gift. They get two
Yeah.
books for $14.99. So that's a blessing. And Lord knows we have tried to let everybody know that if they really want to heal and progress and evolve and change, it's a small investment for a huge lifelong return. So thank you so much, E. Tanisha, did you have any closing remarks?
No, ma'am.
You sleep?
I said, no, ma'am. I'm not asleep.
I know you sleep, T.
I'm not asleep.
We just going there. Lord, it's after 10. I had no idea. Erica, did you want to close us out in prayer?
Yes, I can. For anyone that would like to, I will also be putting out at the end of this week. I'm going to be doing some. I'm going to take a couple of slots for a free discovery call, and I'll add that as well. And just to help, because I know a lot of people are going through different things, and sometimes it's just good to have that conversation, to be clear, get some direction, and sometimes just to be heard. So I'll be offering that as well. But thank you all for this opportunity. It's been an amazing month with you all, and I appreciate it, because I know next month we'll be featuring Dr. K. Then I'll be back in August. So I thank you so much for all of y'all's time, and I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate all of your support, and we'll close out in prayer. Father, we thank you for this night. We thank you for life, health, and strength. Father, we thank you for critical conversations that you're allowing us to have at this time. And Father, we thank you for the ability to use our voice and to speak our truth and no longer deny our truth, to honor ourselves, to honor our feelings and emotions, God, to understand them, Father. We thank you for wisdom in the conversations that we have, God. And Father, we pray that we will continue with these conversations, that we will learn, know, and understand at a greater level. But most of all, God, at the end of the day, we thank you for peace. We thank you for unity. We thank you for understanding. Now, God, I ask that you bless every person that was on this call, that joined us on tonight. And we pray there was something that was said and heard that were able to bless them in a mighty way. So we honor you. We thank you for this platform, When Women Heal. As when women heal, we rise, we use our voice, we change the world. So we thank you and we honor you in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Love you, ladies. I appreciate you all. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Amen. Thank you so much, E. Thank you for going above and beyond. And I think that discovery call is going to bless so many people. Ladies, take advantage of that to the link that Erica's going to post in the comments. Okay, ladies, y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, E. Bye-bye.